It's your Catholic Drive Time
with Joe McClane and EmilyiAlcaraz.
Talk about blacklisting. It's all the rage. It's the new normal, and he's going to have this conversation with us this morning. Good morning to you, Mr. Spence.
Good morning.
Thanks for being on with us this morning. We're very grateful to you.
My pleasure.
For the sake of our audience, just to remind them, so January 6th, Capitol, the riots on Capitol Hill that took place, Senator Josh Hawley from Missouri was he was attacked for that. In fact, his publisher, Simon Schuster, dropped him in his forthcoming book, The Tyranny of Big Tech, and it looks like Regnery picked him up. Maybe you can start there, Mr. Spence. How did that come about, and why did you feel like this was a good thing to do?
So Senator Hawley was objected to the certification of the electoral vote on January the 6th, and which is a perfectly legal and constitutional thing for a senator to do. A lot of people on both sides of the aisle disagreed with that, but as far as it was not a particularly exceptional legislative act, and he, I think, did not foresee the attack on the Capitol that was coming. I mean, people got very excited. So, and in fact, immediately after the events at the Capitol, Senator Hawley forcefully condemned what had happened. The next day, Simon & Schuster, one of the so-called Big Five publishing houses in New York, announced that they were canceling the publication of a book that Senator Hawley had written called The Tyranny of Big Tech, which is on a topic that is explained by the title. And they issued a statement saying that, it was a very vague statement, and suggested that Senator Hawley was responsible in some way for the attack on the Capitol. I think that is not reasonable. So Senator Hawley was left without a publisher for this book, and we at Regnery, which is an independent conservative publisher, we do mostly nonfiction political books. We got in touch with the senator, and by the end of the weekend, we had a deal. So we picked up the book. I will be the first to acknowledge that we think we will sell a lot of this book. Simon & Schuster has given it a publicity campaign that we could not have paid for. So we think it was, a good business decision, but also it was an opportunity for us to step in and take a stand against what I think can only be called blacklisting. Which is Senator Hawley is the most prominent victim of that, but there's a move by sort of so-called publishing professionals, more than 500 of them, signed an open letter to the publishing industry, demanding that no one who was connected to the Trump administration, who participated in the Trump administration, should be given a book contract for anything, for any reason. And that is good old-fashioned blacklisting, right? It's one thing to cancel somebody's book or not publish his book because of some, seriously objectionable thing he's done. But it's another to say, we in advance, we don't care what you have to say. We don't like your affiliations. We don't like your philosophy, whatever. So you need not apply.
We're talking with Thomas Spence. He is the publisher of Regnery Publishing. He's picking up Senator Josh Hawley's book, The Tyranny of Big Tech. And you bring out an excellent point, Thomas Spence. The blacklisting is really getting crazy. The censorship, the cancel culture. I'm not assuming guilt on any part when I make these comments. I just want to make them generally. If you make a mistake, you're never allowed to recover from it. That seems to be the sentiment of our modern culture. You're never allowed to. I mean, we see examples. There was a story the other day of a person who had video of a young student and held on to that video for years until she applied for college and then sent it to the college to get her scholarships revoked. I mean, it seems rather insane to me. and a culture where we want to totally decimate anybody who has an opposing opinion to us. How do you see that? Where are we at now in the publishing business now? And where are we going? Is this going to get worse? Do you see this getting worse in your world?
It's very big in the publishing business right now. And I think there are two things going on. There's a situation that you described, sort of a refusal to forgive somebody. I mean, I suppose there are crimes that a person could commit that ought never to be forgiven, at least by his publisher, right? that are so bad, and that, if there's no sign of repentance, we don't want to have anything to do with that book. And there are people that Regnery would simply not publish, on principle. That's fine. We're a private company. That's our right. Simon & Schuster is a private company. That's their right. There is this sense, though, that you can never recover from a misstep, particularly if it's a certain kind of misstep, right? if it is a politically incorrect misstep. And at my publishing house, we would take that on a case-by-case basis. I hope that a lot of people have forgiven me a lot of things in life, and I think that's a better way to operate. Then there's what I call blacklisting, and that is not sort of punishing somebody for something he's actually done. That is blacklisting, silencing him in advance because of his philosophy. And again, there are people out there with ideas that are so toxic and nasty that I suppose, at Regnery, we would not publish that, right?
Hold that thought. I'm sorry, Mr. Spence. We're talking with Thomas Spence, publisher of Regnery. We're having a conversation with Thomas Spence. He is the publisher of Regnery, picking up Senator Josh Hawley's book, The Tyranny of Big Tech. We're having a conversation about blacklisting and censorship. Before we went to break, you were launching into a point there, Mr. Spence, and then I had to cut you off. That's my job, by the way, to cut off the most important people on planet Earth. That's what I do for a living. So you should feel very honored that you're in a distinguished list of incredible people. I know Emily had a great question. So Emily, if you want to launch and go right ahead.
Right. Hi, Mr. Spence. Emily here. So I believe there is a valid premise to a certain extent for censoring, explicit material, violence, that sort of thing. But it seems now we've shifted to this point where ideas and opinions have become violence, or people are considering thoughts and opinions to be violence. So in the publishing world, when did you see this shift begin to take place? And have you seen an increase of interest in independent publishers?
That's a good question. I'm not entirely sure when I first noticed this happening a lot in the publishing world. It is something different is going on now, though. I would say that it had, at least as I perceive things have really ramped up. The blacklisting. Just to give you an example, after Senator Hawley's book was canceled, I started getting inquiries from the press and from others about asking whom would we not publish, right? And that's the big question, not just directed to Regnery, but all over the place. If you follow the kind of the publishing insider gossip or press, they're all talking about whom would you not publish. Well, that's an odd question for publishers to be focused on, right? And but that's where we are. It's more important whom you will exclude, whom you would not even consider, than whom you would publish. And I think that's new. The publishing industry in this country has tilted strongly leftward for a long time. That's why Regnery exists. Right? We were started 75 years ago by Henry Regnery, who called himself a dissident publisher because there were views that he thought were not being expressed. But that's fine, but it has, I think, intensified in just even the last several weeks. Senator Hawley put it quite well, I thought, in his statement after his book was canceled. He said, I was representing my constituents in challenging the electoral vote, and this is now equated with sedition. Right? It's what you said, Emily. They are taking ideas that they don't like, they disagree with, and equating them with violence. We've seen that for a while. That's part of the, I would say, the homosexual agenda, and they've been very successful at that, as treating opposition, sort of moral censure of certain kind of behavior as hate, right? Which is ridiculous, but boy, does that work.
Yes. I was just thinking, as you were saying, the banks that are coming out day after day to say they won't bank with Donald Trump anymore. It's rather ludicrous. I mean, some of these banks helped the Nazi Party during World War II, and they're going to get all righteous on us now. It seems rather
they're atoning.
Right. It seems rather strange to me in these days. One of the questions that I have is, how do you perceive, like with, I know I've watched a couple of interviews with you and other outlets, and I think you've addressed this question, but I want to ask it here. So you're going to publish this book with Senator Hawley, and of course the cancel culture doesn't want him to have a voice in the public sphere. How do you see your relationships with some of your partners in the industry, Simon & Schuster being one of them? How about Amazon, one of the largest outlets for book distributions on our planet today? I mean, many authors have had to go to self-publishing and self-distribution because of the difficulties in the publishing world. How do you perceive the days ahead in this regard?
Yeah, we're watching it closely. I would emphasize that no one has threatened us. None of our business partners, other companies we do business with, has come to us and said, you might want to think twice about taking that Hawley book. But we read the newspapers, and we saw what happened to Senator Hawley, and then basically the same weekend, Parler, President Trump, all kinds of other persons or organizations were not only censored, but completely shut down. And I have had discussions with nervous counterparts at other publishing houses who have noticed, as I have, that, gosh, if Amazon can withdraw overnight its web hosting services to Parler, now that's a different business, right? That's their web hosting, that's not their book selling business. But if they can do that, you don't have to have a very vivid imagination to imagine they're saying we're not going to take certain books or any of your books. Amazon has not done that, and I will give Amazon a lot of credit in that they have been generally very good for independent publishers. Amazon will carry anything, and while I would say that 90%, 95% of the books published in this country, probably we'd be better off if they weren't published. not worth that. Nevertheless, I am very grateful that we have had that platform from Amazon, because a lot of bookstores are not terribly welcoming to the kind of books that Regnery publishes.
Mm-hmm. We saw recently in the Catholic sphere the book by Carrie Gress, the AntiMary Exposed. It's a book on toxic femininity and against the feminism movement. And it was blacklisted on Facebook and on Instagram. So you cannot purchase it on Facebook or Instagram. But we saw, just like what you were saying about publicity, because of that action, it actually skyrocketed on Amazon to the #2 book in feminism. So it was, we see that happening across the board, and it seems like it's starting with smaller people trying to censor this, that, and the other, but it seems like it's going to start growing. And what does this mean for publishers? Because I was thinking about this. I mean, people can always go to a different publisher, but is that a problem with exposure? Is it a problem with profits, or is it a problem with what's the problem
distribution.
With getting distribution? Or do people not take certain publishers more or less seriously? So what's the how does that work in the publishing world in regards to moving publisher to publisher?
Yeah, well, traditionally, there are the big five publishers, right? Five conglomerates that have grown and grown and grown over the years as one publisher acquires another. They're about to become the big four because Penguin Random House, which itself is a mix of Penguin and Random House, is about to acquire Simon Schuster. So soon it will be the big four. But they have got the prestige, right? They're to book publishing what Harvard, Yale, and Princeton are to universities. And so they not only have prestige, but they have, get their books everywhere. So they have a lot of marketing power. Mm-hmm. So people like Senator Hawley, will that's where they want to be. He signed up with Simon & Schuster. I think that may start to change a little bit now that they've seen what happened to Senator Hawley. I have had, Regnery does just fine. We acquire lots of wonderful authors, but I do run into this occasionally where an author of a book that would be a great fit for us, that we would pour our heart and soul into selling, wants to be at Random House because, we like you guys, but, we want a mainstream publisher for this. And fine, but I think the mainstream publishers are going to be, that mainstream is getting a little bit narrower. We'll see. These may be, we have this sort of sardonic joke in our office that what's bad for America is good for Regnery.
That's sad.
And, we may benefit from some of this, but I'd rather not have that situation. I'd rather be out there competing with everybody else because, I don't know. We'll see. This may be sort of a spasm, in reaction to Trump or whatever. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably a longer-term problem.
We have just about a minute left with our conversation with Thomas Spence from Regnery Publishing. We're talking about Senator Hawley's book, as well as just blacklisting and censorship in general. But last question really quickly here, Mr. Spence. When can we expect Senator Josh Hawley's book to be hitting the shelves?
I can answer that very briefly. May the 4th.
May the 4th
is our publication date. Yeah. So you can order it early in advance on, dare I say it, Amazon and or at Regnery.com. We also, if worst comes to worst and we get shut down, there's always Regnery.com. We sell our own books there. But yeah, May 4th, and you can order it in advance.
All right, praise be to God. We'll post a link to Regnery.com on our live video feed over at Facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time. But Mr. Spence, Thomas Spence, publisher at Regnery, thank you for being on with us and having this conversation. We're very grateful to you. All right.
Thank you so much.
God love you, and have a great day. That's going to do it for the first hour of Catholic Drive Time. We're very grateful you were on the program today. We'll post the conversation all by itself over on rumble.com. Just look for Catholic Drive Time. You'll find it there. Make sure you like and subscribe, or whatever they call it over there. It gets confusing on these other platforms. But if you're able to join us in the next hour, we surely would love to have you. We'll have more breaking news and stories. We'll have Saint of the Day, Gospel of the Day, plus our Catholic Trivia game show with new prizes. Great prizes on the hook this week. You could win that. Just join us on one of our live video streams, Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. Catholic Drive Time. We'll see you tomorrow morning.
Thank you for joining us on your Catholic Drive Time, where it is our pleasure to keep you informed and inspired.
Join us Monday through Friday at the same time, right here on your favorite Catholic radio station.
Don't forget to connect with us. Just go to Facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Again, that's Facebook.com/Catholic Drive Time.
Be sure to share more than just us today. Share Jesus with everyone you meet.
Bye now, and and God love you.